Now we're joined by the Environment Secretary George Eustice here on talkRADIO. Good morning to you.
Good morning.
Good morning. Thank you very much indeed for joining me. Let's turn to other topics. Front page of pretty much every paper today. Pictures of these beaches at Bournemouth and elsewhere. Massive overcrowding, it's claimed, although again difficult to tell from which camera angle. Chris Whitty, the Chief Medical Officer, tweeting out his concern that if people don't obey the lockdown rules, which, by the way, reminder, lockdown rules still apply right now, everybody, that we are going to see a second wave. How concerned are you and other members of the government that actually people are coming out of lockdown far too soon, too many people are not obeying the rules, and we are going to head for a second wave?
Well, I think it's important to recognise that we actually loosened the rules as far as having a day trip to the beach or other public spaces is concerned well over a month ago. And generally speaking, to be fair, I think the vast majority of people have abided by social distancing. I myself took my family to Bournemouth Beach a couple of weeks ago, and people were keeping themselves apart. Vendors who were open were putting in place social distancing measures. However, I think what happened yesterday, it was the hottest day of the year, extraordinarily hot. Lots of people had the same idea. And so we saw, worrying numbers of people, frankly, at places like Bournemouth. I think it's just very important. Our appeal to people is that if you do go to the beach, stay within your family unit, observe that social distancing, keep your distance from others. And if that really isn't possible because there's too much overcrowding, then do go home. And Bournemouth themselves have signage up to say if it's too busy, go home. It's pretty obvious that yesterday not enough people heeded that advice.
Should there perhaps be more in place, policing in place to stop more people entering the beach? We know that Brighton, they didn't have the same problems. We've had the threat of closing the beaches. Is that likely to happen?
Well, I think it's unlikely to happen, and we're very reluctant to go to that. People have had a tough time in the summer, locked down, unable to go out, unable to meet friends and family. What we're trying to do is to chart a sensible, cautious, tentative course out of this terrible situation that we're in, while recognizing that we're all going to have to live alongside this virus for some time to come. That's why we're developing the test and trace approach, so that we can do effectively localized lockdowns where we get a local outbreak without having to shut the entire country down again. Matt Hancock's made clear that we have the powers, if necessary, to reintroduce closures on beaches, but it's not a direction we want to go. And I suspect, Julia, the British weather being what it is, and looking at the forecast for the weekend, it may well solve this problem and I mean that we have smaller numbers of people at the beach next week.
Well, again, a lot of the government's policy is based on, common sense now. And as of July the 4th, we're told, these aren't even going to be regulations anymore. They're going to be guidance. Given what we saw at the beach in Bournemouth the last couple of days, given what we've seen, and we'll come to this, the illegal parties across London over the last couple of nights with violent clashes with the police, are you really sure that enough people in the British population have the common sense to cope with the pubs reopening on July the 4th on a Saturday?
I think so, yes. We do have confidence in that. And we've always recognised, and I admit this, we've always recognised that third substantive phase, the loosening of restrictions on pubs and restaurants, was undoubtedly the most challenging, because these are, by definition, social venues. People don't go to the pub to stay away from others. They go to the pub, to socialise with friends. So it was always going to be the most challenging. But I think it's important to note that pubs are used to, managing their venue assertively, and managing people who've maybe had too much to drink, or people who are underage and so forth. And I think that they will put in place and enforce social distancing and be able to enforce limits on the number of people coming into the pub. Restaurants generally operate anyway by bookings. And once they've got people sat at a table, they can observe the social distancing measures that they will need to abide to as well. So I think, yes, we can make this work. Are there some risks? Yes, inevitably. This is the third and most difficult phase. And it's crucial that people abide by the social distancing measures that we are putting alongside this further loosening for it to work. Because otherwise, if they don't and nobody abides by the guidance in place, then yes, we will start to see that infection rate creep back up.
Well, we've already seen the infection rate stop going down, and we now know that one of the key things that was going to help us out of this coronavirus pandemic and the lockdown was the test and trace system. We haven't got the app. Okay, we've had all that explained to us, the world-beating app that never really appeared, but we have got the human traces, and yet we've got a situation where only a third of the people thought to have coronavirus are actually getting tested, and then only 70% of them are being traced, and then only 82% of their contacts are being traced, which means we have got thousands of people who got the virus still infecting people who are untraced. Is it really safe for us to come out of lockdown where we haven't got the test and trace system in place that we were told for months by you, the Prime Minister, your Chief Medical Officer, Chief Scientific Advisor, the Health Secretary and others was vital for the process of easing lockdown? Is it safe?
Well, look, throughout this coronavirus, at every single stage, the measures that we put in place, we've never pretended would give total 100% protection. Early on, when we were encouraging people to wash their hands and keep their distance and be careful, that would help, but it was never going to give total protection. Even lockdown wouldn't give full protection, because we recognize that people would still need to go to do the weekly shopping and so forth. And it's the case now that is the test and trace system perfect? No, of course it won't be. We're trying to do something new and something quite extraordinary. But we have contacted over 100,000 people who have been in contact with somebody who's tested positive, and we've been able to give them that direction to self-isolate, and that does help. So it won't be 100% ever, but we should continually improve it and refine it and build it and make it stronger, and try to improve the numbers of people that we contact and improve the compliance of those who we contact. And if we get significant numbers doing this and participating in this, then yes, it does help to address the spread of the disease.
Okay, just finally, I know we're a little bit over time, but George Eustice, are you concerned that the police have lost control of the British streets? Forget people going onto a beach, which is actually still legal to do. People having illegal parties and raves on London streets certainly isn't. We've seen violent clashes between the police and party goers over the last 2 nights. Police running away, police vehicles smashed up. Do we just have one law for the people who will obey the law and one law for people who just don't obey the law, and they can just get away with what they want? Have the police lost control?
Well, I don't think they have, but they have to make judgments on the ground. The officers that are there have to make judgments about how best to deal with a particular situation.
And do you think running away? Do you think it's ever the right way to deal with a violent situation for large groups of police officers to run away?
Well, I haven't, seen this evidence.
No, I don't believe you. That's no. I'm sorry. That footage has been all over social media. That footage has been all over the television. You're a cabinet minister, and there have been major protests on the streets of this country, with police being threatened and hurt. 22 police officers. It was leading the news.
I'm aware of that.
And you've not seen the footage of police officers running away.
I've not seen the footage because I didn't see the news bulletins, but I have.
You haven't.
Seen,
I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. You're a cabinet minister in this country, and you don't watch the news.
I don't always watch the news. No. Why would I?
Why would you? You don't want to know what's going on in the country in which you have a say of how it's run.
No, I know what's going on in the country, and I'm being.
But you didn't know that a large group of police officers in this country were forced to run away from violent party goers in Brixton 2 nights away. I am aware, Julia, that on Wednesday night there were illegal raids. Police attempted to break it up. That there was violence against the police. That is totally unacceptable. Police officers on the ground have to make the judgment about how to deal with these situations. But I know that the Home Secretary is looking very closely at this. We have to have law and order on our streets, and we cannot have these illegal raves carrying on. So what are we going to do about it then?
Well, the Home Secretary, I know, will be talking to the police about this and making sure that insofar as we have these issues and that they might continue, that they can be addressed.
Okay, George Eustice, thank you very much indeed.